that was the outside hunting. The fact that it's locally a strong move actually backfires here, and that white gets to curl into the corner. So I'd say among the 4 variations, actually these active moves that black has played, the honey on top where white gets into the corner, and the honey underneath where white gets into the side. I'd say at least in these 2 variations, it's relatively easy to see what white was trying to do and how it worked. Would you agree?
Yeah.
White was trying to get into the right side here and could do that when black played the honey underneath at 1.
Right.
And when black plays the honey on the top, white plan changes, so white's going to get into the corner. So the difficult one, I'd say, is this one. And this is still not the game move, where it becomes more difficult to see exactly what white is trying to do. When black plays here, this allows white to get a relatively good shape when white plays here. So, so where would you play with black in this position? This is actually a position where black seems to have more than one viable choice. So that's why I'm asking the question. I would have trouble saying that you were right or wrong if you chose one of 3 moves.
I'm so rusty. I'm going to crowdsource this if you don't mind, because my I find that when I haven't played in a while, I just want to kill everything, which of course is completely wrong. So I'm thinking of things like peeping, which I know is wrong. I'm getting a lot of P. Wait a minute. All my helpers are going P2 also. I got 2 P2s. I got an O3 and I got 2 S2s.
S2, P2, O3, O3, yeah. Okay, let's do the peep first then. So in this case, white has some forcing moves here, and we'll play somewhere. Let's see if I made a variation. No, I didn't. Somewhere around here. And so white's going to play a fairly straightforward way, and actually will have little trouble making eyes.
Got it.
And so in this variation again, white still has some potential on this side too. Pretty similar to what I was showing before.
Right.
White's not going to be that keen on trying to save everything, but white will get some forcing moves from center to forth. And when I studied this one, it went really crazy. Like black tried to kill this group, and white did not try to live, and it got really complicated. So I didn't really go into the detail there. So that's white's plan there. The peep is actually it's a move that I would consider too. So it's not completely out of the question.
But let's take a quick look at it because I think the reason I mean it was my instinctive move, but I would be worried about it being too crude, and also it takes away any agi, right? So
yeah, the redeeming factor about it is that if white could get an eye in sente in the corner this way, assuming black is trying to kill, if white could get one eye with sente, it would probably be bad. So in this variation like this, and let's say black did something like, if this was an eye in sente, so for instance, a variation like this, where black would try to kill with one of these moves, then it would be relatively easy for white to, for instance, do something like this and get a second eye. And it would be pretty easy. So this would be easy to live. The redeeming factor is that when black is really serious about attacking this group, black can play this peep here. And this is going to be the bent 4 shape. So even if white plays here, this is the bent 4 in the corner.
Yeah.
And it's a dead shape. It's a dead shape according to the Japanese rules. And in the Chinese rules, you play it out, but it's going to die anyway. Yeah, so it's the same thing basically.
Got it.
And so there's the advantage that when it comes to the final stage, black can actually kill it with the peep here. And so white can only get one eye. If white plays that way, it's only one eye in the corner. Or if white extends, it's still only one eye in the corner. So white cannot get a quick eye there. So that's kind of, I think that's what makes it okay when in similar cases it would not be okay.
Got it.
So for instance, I'll just have to manufacture a similar position here. And so just ignore the moves. But if we had something like this, then of course it would be a sente eye, and it would be a different story. the fact that these two black stones here are loose. There are a lot of similar positions where these two black stones would be relatively vulnerable, and white would be able to make a forcing moves like this. So this would be one eye, however black plays it, and it would be a different story. So that's an example of how usually, in some cases, that Hane in the corner is going to create an eye with one eye with Sente, or with the option to make two eyes next.
Okay.
Whereas the game variation, white did not have that option. Okay, back to the game. Oh yeah. So I was talking about this move. A more common move would be to play here. In this case, white's going to play the hanging connection and starter ko. And I wonder if I should go any further here. This is going to get really crazy. So I'll leave it here. Basically, white's idea is to try to make a living shape there. And on the right side, white is probably going to sacrifice those two stones in a similar way to before, with a move like this at some point.
Okay.
Interesting. This is also a move that you see a lot of, and you see it in computer variations, and played by some human players. White's going to live on the side with something like this, and it's a similar idea. On the right side, white is going to try to play to use the Hane here to reduce to the right side. So in this case, it's sort of intermediate. White's territory is not as big as it was in the variation I showed you where white lived here. So it's a relatively small white territory, but white did live inside the black corner. So it's a pretty even result, I'd say. So yes, basically white is going to try to do something with this group in the lower right. And then is going to, in most cases, black use that mark point to sacrifice the right side on the small scale as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So black did not play any of those three games. So the problem with this move for players who actually want to play it in their own games is that you have to have multiple game plans depending on how black answers this. And it's a turning point. The next black move is going to change everything. So this was the game move, the fourth choice. And probably the fourth move that you would think about. It's the least likely, but it's actually trying to give white a heavy shape here. And so taking away white's potential to live in the corner,
right,
taking away white's eye space, and not giving anything to white. For instance, if white goes into this variation that I showed you at the very beginning, where white is trying to live on the right side, in this variation, black is not given anything to white. So if we have a variation something like this, white has not gained any potential in the lower right corner in this variation. It's just black is going to have the same game plan. It was probably an hour ago, at least half an hour ago when I was talking about this, but I was saying that black's plan will be to surround the territory like this while attacking white on the right side. And the fact that black's group here in the upper right is pretty much alive is going to make it relatively easy for black. So when this happens, this exchange has not gained anything for white.
The R3 move actually makes sense in a really sort of simple way, which is just the idea. It's the instinct, I think, certainly for amateur players, would be, hey, white is in black's house, so you want to resist strongly.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting, I think what you're saying is that R3 actually is a very strong resistance, because you're saying to white, no base.
Yes, in a way it's strong. As far as shape is concerned, it's kind of submissive and passive in that it's just extending. It's a defensive move locally, but it's basically refusing to give white anything in concrete in the form of eyes. And basically by making this area not giving white anything yet. On the other hand, it's giving white a little bit, some extra space here towards the side and towards the center.
Right.
It means that white has lost the option of doing that variation that I was just showing you, where white is trying to live on the right side. So it's taking that, refusing to give white any options to do stuff on the right side yet. So limiting white by forcing white to continue in the lower right area. So black's going to try to attack these stones. Jumping is a normal shape here. and black finished off that stone on the right side. So black's game plan basically is to be taking profit on the side there, and in the corner on the lower side, while forcing white to escape towards the center. Yeah, and so this move, this is a position where locally, if we just look at the corner, white's going to be looking at moves like this and moves like this. So these both seem to be feasible moves, but the problem is that if white does them immediately, they both do not work. So if white plays here, black's going to play the key point here, and white's going to have to deal with a lot of cutting points. It's going to be bad shape. If white plays here, black's going to peep and then slide. And again, white sort of has heavy shape here. So what white did in the game was white played here, and white's looking at both of these potential points. So in some cases, white's going to play here. In some cases, white's going to play here. It's a great light move. I really like this one.
Yeah, me too.
And white has ideas of moving to the left or towards the center of the board. So this is an example of a good way to play when you're in danger of being under attack.
I like that a lot, actually. It's very light, and it continues white's whole strategy of kind of dodging around and staying light and flexible, and really, I know this happens to me a lot of times. I just sort of get this one idea and I just, go right down the rabbit hole. And, if it turns out to be a good, rabbit hole, it's okay, but often not. So this seems to maintain a lot of flexibility for white.
Okay, yeah. And I think that basically the idea was with white, for instance, if black does something on the left here, let's say black does something like this, then white's gonna, actually white could do it either way, but white's gonna have better choices on the right side here. So sort of depending on how black follows up, white's gonna choose how to play there next. And the game black plays here, so black's forestalling that. And if white plays here, black's probably just gonna bump against it and take that territory. So white played here now. This move is almost always countered with black wedging here. This just is the basic move that creates a lot of cutting points. So it's the shape move. And then white connects here. So if black cuts now, white's going to be able to push through here. So that was white's idea. And black plays the Hanen moves. So this was a nice shape move. If white connects, black can just extend here. And it's pretty much connected up, and it's not giving white any forcing move. So that's the idea here. Or if white covers here, this is going to be trouble for white. Black probably plays this too. It's going to be trouble for white. Both inside and outside, white's sort of in trouble.
Oof.
So in the game, white just ignores it, I think. Let's see where white played. White played here, yeah. So white's sort of looking at the covering on the second line move, but is probably not all that serious about it. So black backs off and cuts here. And you can see black's taking the territory while white is taking some position on the outside. Yeah, so we're back to a middle game. So white has established a fairly, it doesn't have any eyes yet, but it's big enough that it's probably not going to be any immediate danger. So you can see that in this variation, white started with the jump here. Oh yeah, see if I can jump to it. The jump here. And white continued just by floating around on the fifth line most of the time. So that was the idea that white had. White's trying to play lightly here and create a group that's not so weak, while black was taking away white's eye space and trying to keep some potential to attack it. And so I'd say this was about an even variation here, where black is strong all over and white is not completely secure, but white did get the tempo to play that big move in the upper left.
Nice.
And if you ask Kataro, like, white's winning by half a point throughout the game. It's sort of boring to see the computer analysis.
I know, right?
Yeah, so this was an interesting place for black to peep. And I think it was just not big enough if black had peeped this way. It's sort of neat to see the move here, and white peeps also. This is would be called vulgar usually, but basically in this case, usually you don't peep right next to the. So moves like this would be good shape, but in this case, it's more important to be connected to that white group below. So it's sort of vitally important to be able to connect up to this group. And while white one is a good shape move, in this case, white would get cut off. So it just doesn't work. So this the so-called vulgar move here is actually the best move. And of course, cutting is out of the question. Cutting would be just too easy for black.
So let me ask you. This is sort of maybe a technically a writer's question, but I guess go. The idea of a vulgar move has sort of a, I don't want to say moral implication, but I mean, that it's, but I guess what
it's probably a bad translation that has been around for several decades.
Okay.
So like when I came to Japan, I grew up with that the way we say it. I don't know how well people would say it now, but it's a move that loses a lot of aji or potential. So for instance, in this position, usually white would be looking at peeping here, or maybe playing a peep here, or doing stuff like this first and then thinking of cutting later. Or in some cases, just ignore the moves I'm playing. But in some cases, white would be forcing from this side. White has, I could probably, if I worked at it, I could think of half a dozen ways that white can make use of the weakness here, which are not the same as the game. And so professionals in general don't really like to fix the shape like that when you have a lot of potential ways to do it that could potentially be better. And so that's why we sort of hesitate to play these vulgar peeps. So that's how we use the word, and it's just losing some potential. But on the other hand, computer programs like AlphaGo, Katago, Lila Zero, they have a tendency, and I'm just talking about the ones like Lila Zero and Katago. I talk about them all the time, basically because they're the ones that I have access to. Like there's strong programs like Fine Art and some Korean programs, some more Chinese programs that are probably stronger, but I can't really put them into my computer and use them freely on my own.
Right.
Some of those are available on servers, actually, but then you're still limited on how, like, you get 10 move variations, and you can see sometimes I need something more like 30 moves.
Got it.
Yeah.
Just to finish on this, because Rory Tate is sort of catching what my point was, is that vulgar is a term that's used a lot, but it doesn't in English. It has a particular meaning, right? Like if somebody were to say something vulgar to you, it would be insulting or in poor taste. And what you're saying is that it really doesn't mean that. And it's actually an important distinction, because I think people can feel like, oh, I'm being disrespected, which is really not what you're saying. Is it's really not what it's about.
Yes, and this term, I can see how it's sort of confusing to some people, but it's been around. It was around when I was learning how to play golf, so it's just something I grew up with, and so I use it without thinking. But I can see how people would be confused by that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's what this move, and it's kind of move that computers like to play. And when you think about it, in this position, for instance, it's a case where if white did not play it immediately and was just looking at those various potential different ways to use it, there's a distinct possibility that white would just lose the opportunity.
Right.
And so it's computers like to fix the shape like this. Maybe it's because it's easier to calculate. In this case, I would argue that it's probably even better. And the whole idea is that this stone, there's no way for black to cut it off from the main white group. For instance, if black tries to with something like this would probably just end in a disaster for black. But for instance, white can just connect up like this. Black will eventually have to back off here. And so white will have no trouble connecting up here. So that would just give white a lot more moves on the outside. Makes it easier for white.
Wow.
So the point is that while this stone that I thought was better shape. This is better shape, but it's going to be cut off. Getting cut off is pretty lethal in this case. So it's pretty clear that the computer move here is working in some way. It's adding to it's helping the white group. So going for the immediate value instead of looking at a lot of potential, in many cases, especially when you're potentially under attack like this, the immediate gain is actually more important. And just looking at it and looking at various moves that you might want to play in the future, when you're under attack, you generally lose that opportunity. So we see a move that looks almost like the master version of AlphaGo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's reminiscent. And white adds a stone here. So this makes the group fairly strong now. And black is getting extra points on the left side. After this, it's really interesting still. Yeah, I really like this move. But it's a bit more technical, maybe. It was technical already, but this move is actually a threat against black on the lower side. So if black plays away, let's see, black plays away here, for instance, white's going to be able to wedge here. So if black captures the stone, white captures 5 stones on there. That would obviously be bad for black. But if black plays here, this is not looking so good either. So black has to do something about that. And the timing of this move, I really like it. It's exquisite. Basically, if black answers here, that's just a profitable exchange for white. So this is one way that black would normally think of answering. But the point is, black has this really beautiful way of answering. And this move works because now if white does this, black's going to be able to connect up to the side. So that didn't amount to anything. So it's defending against this potential attack. At the same time, so if black had played here, white would still have the option of breaking into the black territory. This is something white would do later in the game, but white would still have this option later. By playing here, black has secured all of the territory, all the way here. So like if white did something drastic, like pushing through here and playing here and then played here, white could potentially break into the territory. But you can see white's losing a lot of territory on the left here. So it's not really worth it. So in actual play, black has actually secured the whole side territory with this move here. So that's why this is a good move.
Wow.
So you start with the realization that this is a good move for black. And so why did white play this move now? White is asking whether black is going to play here and black is going to play here. And the fact that black played this way, which is the better move as far as surrounding side territory is concerned, black chose this move. Because of this exchange of this stone for this stone, it's going to completely change what happens to the corner. And I'm going to argue that AlphaGo had calculated that. So that was in the variations that it was replaying or whatever. I always have trouble deciding how to phrase that because computers do not think in the same way that we do. So it's really hard to say whether they're thinking or calculating or whatever.
Oh,
but I hope you understand.
We're getting philosophical here. Do computers even think? That's a different lesson, folks.
Right, yeah. So white plays this move anyway. This move was always there. And white's going to keep on using it. So you can see just by white playing here how this stone it's not completely wasted. And black cut. So again, if black had extended here, white would probably be looking at moves like this, just to reduce. Not really trying to get rid of the whole area, but you have to remember that there's this threat that these stones are not alive yet. So black has to be pretty active in surrounding that territory. It means that white's going to get a lot of forcing moves. So that's the idea there. And it's reasonable that black just simply cut to keep the damage relatively small. And even in this variation, white's looking, of course, at the Atari from above. In some cases, white will be looking at this kind of stuff. And again, this move comes up. This move pops up all over the place. And this depends on the group here being secure enough. It's getting better. It's getting secure. So it depends on this group being secure. and white having enough room to be able to get out into the center when black does stuff like this. It might, in this case, it might be a bit dangerous. All black has to do is enclose from this line, and it's going to bump into this wall. So white does have to be a bit careful of that. But there's the potential that white's looking at. And so strong players and computer programs, they don't just go in a straight line to do that immediately. This would be the mistake that is pretty human to make. Like you're focused on that one. You see something that could potentially work, but it's dangerous for white too. Probably not going to work in this case. So white just plays the one move. By playing this one move, white has asked black how he's going to deal with that. And since black is committed now, white will have the option of playing Atari from one side or the other later in the game. And so that's established. Whereas before that exchange, it wasn't established yet. So that exchange was just establishing the potential. And it doesn't continue with it. So this is where this stone is going to come into play. You're going to be amazed how it does. So yeah, this sequence was a kind of a shaped sequence here, where black is aiming at the 3-3 point, obviously.
Right. Yep. People were just asking about that.
Right. Yeah. This would be really worrying if I was playing with white. But white has something on the outside that white is looking at. So if black plays here, locally this is already bad for white in the corner. There's no way white's going to easily kill this black group. But the problem is that white's going to start here and just watch what happens here. So black has a lot of cutting points suddenly.
Yes.
And you can see that this stone is already taking part of it.
2, 3.
Without that white stone, it would be really easy for black.
Wow.
Black would just connect here. And without this marked stone here, maybe I should just take that stone off and show you. Without that stone, even if white cuts here, nothing's going to happen. So it's a completely useless. So without that exchange of that stone, it was an exchange for this black stone, if you remember. Without that exchange, it's just bad for black. Okay, let's see if I can find the same variation. Yeah. I'll have to start again. Okay, so that was the game move. If black plays here, then white starts with this. So black has a lot of cutting points. So what do you do? That didn't work. Black's probably going to connect here. So as far as the side is concerned, if white cuts here, black can still connect underneath. But white's going to start from this side. And this threatens that cut on the third line. So this is going to be bad for black. Yeah, I actually went into a few more moves. White's going to win by one move. So just believe me there.
Wow. Okay, fair enough.
So that was bad for black. So that's what's happening with this move here. I'm talking about this stone. That's what was happening with this stone. White was asking how black answers, and that changed how white played the whole left side of the board, because it's changing status of this white group when black tries to kill with a move like this. And this is I doubt that I would be calculating to that extent in a game, right? With time controls especially. I would probably play more conservative moves on the left side of the board and play it without this exchange. So seeing that this exchange is actually changing the whole story there, it's a revelation to me. So black started to, obviously black doesn't want to play a move that doesn't do very much. White would just answer in the corner and that would be it. There would be no value, no special value for black. So black is trying to play an active move. This was the game move. And let's see. So if white answers that, it's going to be slightly different story. So white did not. White countered with this and answered. Okay. Yeah. See. Let's see. So now if black plays it, what's going to happen? It's still going to be okay for white. White reinforces once here, and that's creating a co-threat at this point. And white's going to start with the co, not that one. I'm getting lost in the variations. So yeah, something like this, and it's going to be a call. And this is another position where these very solid shapes that white has, they're going to pay off because black doesn't have any co-threats. And like I was saying, white does have a nice co-threat here in the corner, the target on the first point, which is going to fix the corner situation.
Wow.
Okay, here I am. So black played away. Instead of, black played away twice, actually. Black played here. This is sort of threatening these white stones on the left side and fixing black's shape in the center. So that's a normal, it looks like a normal move. And black played here. And this is really deep because black is thinking of making some co-threats. So black plays here and plays here. Locally, this move is just not working. It's actually bad because normally black would just play something on the side first. And locally, black could play a hane here, or black could maybe cut here. In some cases, black will cut first. In some cases, black will cut and extend to establish some forcing moves from the outside, or a combination of that in some cases, just to try to get both. Stuff like this is what you would usually see. And the point is that the game move here, this is increasing white's territory. And it's a move you usually play when, for instance, this stone is a black stone, and you have potential to play a move like this, which is threatening to cut here or to connect underneath. So basically, this attachment on the second line is usually played in combination with a move somewhere around here, with this one connecting the two. So it's not played in this game position. It's not working. There's nothing black can do with it. But the point is that it's creating a co-threat.
Yes, that makes sense.
So this is still the game variation white actually connected here and allowed black to live in the corner. And by doing that, this locally this was a loss. Usually white would try. White actually had ways to kill the corner group locally, but that would lead to a race. Like if white did stuff like this, if this was a life and death problem and white's outside group was safe, white would be able to kill it. But it's going to give white trouble in the case of a race.
B1.
Like for instance, if you just looked very simply at it, this is going to be a big on. This would sort of, in a way, it would revert to the game. It's an example of how black can have a lot of liberties there. So playing this move is allowing black to live. At this point, white still has a potential co here. So why would white play these moves that allow black to get to live unconditionally? The point is that white wanted to have a stone here. In that variation where, without that, where white started a ko, you might notice that white was still a bit soft here. So at some point, if white pushes through a cut, black always has the option of capturing the two stones on the left here from 6. So white's object of playing all these moves in the corner was to get a stone at that 6 point, the mark point, to make a more solid connection there. And this all indicates that white is going to be using that push through and cut there. Let's see, it's it's E6, the cut here. White's going to be using this. White is going to be using as a co-threat or as a direct threat in itself. So that's something that white's aiming at. And in order to make that work, white needed the solid connection there. So giving the corner of life, something sort of counterintuitive for even professional Go players, because that was a position that was not alive yet. But this connection that I've marked here, it was really important. So white, for the time being, white starts the ko. And white pushes through. You can see white's already using that move. This is the co-threat that white had ready. And black finished the ko. So black could have continued the ko. And black has this co-threat here. Black might have to, if black wanted to get into this variation, black probably would have played this exchange earlier and used the bigger move as a co-threat maybe. So black has a co-threat there, but white also has this co-threat here, actually played on the third line. White has this co-threat here. So white's going to have enough co-threats to win the ko anyway. So at this point, black just made the trade. Instead of continuing the ko, black made the trade by cutting here. And we got a trade. So basically, white paid by giving black a living shape in the corner. White paid that to get this, forcing this stone here so that white could push through. And so what black got here was black got an extra move towards the side, slightly better position on the side here, and black got the life in the corner. And in return, white got some territory on the side.
Okay, everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. It's an even result.
Cool.
And black finally got to secure the right side. After this, you could even call this an endgame. So I'm going to go relatively quickly here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if there's any points of interest. And throughout this endgame, it's like it's a half-point difference throughout the endgame. Annoyingly accurate.
I actually had a question about that. I've been playing Master Go, which and I had this feeling that I hadn't played it in a while. The end game seems to be a lot better than it used to be. Have you noticed?
Computers still play soft moves, you might say, when they're winning.
Uh-huh.
They still play soft moves when they're winning, but it's a lot more difficult to notice it.
Okay.
So what you're recalling here, what you're remembering is the Master series, where AlphaGo, posing as Master, was playing a lot of really, the only way I can say it is they were stupid moves. They were moves that were just giving away points.
Right.
And I was really annoyed at that. They were obviously giving away points. And so AlphaGo would be winning by 4.5 points or close on the board, and it had white. So it's something like 4.5, 5.5 points. And the game would end with a half-point difference.
Right.
And the people at DeepMind would say that it's not that it counts, the points are not important, and it doesn't matter whether it wins by half a point or 100 points, and that's true. But it very consistently lost points. Like, it would seem to me that it would be just as easy to play the correct moves. But it was just giving away points. And that was something that really bothered me. And I still, even though I understood that it was not as if it was calculating by points, I had trouble seeing why it could not play the correct moves. So it's not so easy to find that kind of a problem with modern computer programs. They've gotten rid of it to a certain degree.
I think so.
But they do give away points. It's just that it's at a more subtle level. But it's only in a case when the computer's going to win anyway.
This is actually a good end game question. Somebody's wondering, Morganall is wondering about S17, the descent at F17, about why that would be bigger than moving into the center.
For all purposes, for human purposes, they're about the same size. So this move in itself, rather than that, is the follow-up that is a very, very big move. This move is really big. This move is big enough that it's equal to anything that's played in the center. In general, the center is usually smaller than you think it is. It's very easy to overestimate the size of moves surrounding the center. Center is only big if you can really fix all the boundaries at once. So like if black could make a wall here and a wall here, if we could just get rid of that white stone poking out and make a black wall there, then it would be huge. And it would be worth giving white 2 or 3 moves on the side of the board. But the fact is that if black covers one side, we'll probably even see it being played. So if black covers one side, white's going to poke out on the other side. So like this. And it's black just has too many sides to cover. That's the definition, basically, why the sides and the corners are bigger than the center. The fact that you have so many sides you have to surround it from. In practice, towards the end of the game especially, the center is usually the last place you play. So that's a general idea. But in actuality, in this game, the size of the 2 moves, the moves on the side of the board, and moves like this towards the center, it's a very small difference.
Right. And there's another question about Yosei, but we're not going to get into it today. I would suggest 2 things. One is sign up for Michael's channel, because I'm sure that Michael is doing probably some Yosei. Michael loves Yosei, so that would be a question to ask him on his channel. So we're going to leave it there for today. But it's a good question, but it's a pretty serious question.
And like I said, in general, the center is small, but it was
Right.
big enough in this game that it was about the same size. So it depends on the position, and it's really hard to judge also because you've never seen this position before.
Right.
Like, I bet you've seen this one before. Let's just get to the monkey jump.
Oh yeah.
I bet you've seen this one before. Everyone's seen this one before. If you studied it, you know that white's best move is to play here, right? Would you say you know that this is the best move?
Yeah, yes.
Right, yeah, because white can stop black with this move. If black cuts, white can cut black out.
Right.
And so this is the best move as far as surrounding white territory. Everyone knows that, except for AlphaGo, of course. But yeah, AlphaGo actually played a different move. And this lost 2 points because black's going to be able to extend here. And if black goes any further, black's going to end up with Gote. But black can keep the tempo this way. And white's territory is shrunk by 2 points when you compare to this one.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a 2 point difference, but I'm not sure that AlphaGo made a mistake here because in this case, black has 3 eyes. And there's going to be some codes towards the end. They're going to be really important. And the fact that white has co-threat with moves like this in the game, and does not have that co-threat in this.
Right.
There's a difference in the number of co-threats, and it could be really important. And it's beyond what I was willing to try to calculate. It would have taken me days, literally. So I didn't do
Michael, where's your commitment, man? Come on.
I had some other stuff I was figuring.
Okay, all right.
So actually, yeah. So in the game, white is actually going to allow black to gain 2 points there, and black is going to take those 2 points, but black did not have 2 eyes. But of course, everyone knows how to handle the monkey jump. And while I say that, it's actually pretty tricky because sometimes you have different ways you handle it. So it depends on the position. It depends a lot on where these white stones on the third line are. It's slightly different in some cases. But you have these, the point I was trying to make is that you have these shapes on the side that if you studied them, you know how to play them. And there's a high possibility that you have studied them, especially if you're a Don level player, an advanced player. You've seen this before. You know that if you study it, then you won't have problems in your games. And you know that it's going to come up in your games. And it does. You see this position, you see positions similar to this on the right side, similar to this on the right side here too. You see similar positions a number of times. You have a general idea of how big a move or here would be. And if you really are set to calculate it, you probably have a way to calculate it too. So the point I make is that on the side of the board, on the second and first line, you're usually dealing with local positions that you've seen before. And that helps a lot in your judgment of how big they're supposed to be, or whether you actually want to play that move. Right. In the middle of the board, if you haven't seen this game in particular, you haven't seen this position before. It's a brand new position. It's just that the same position will not repeat so easily in the center of the board. So you haven't seen this before, and you have to calculate it from scratch. And that makes it really challenging, not only in calculating the correct moves, it also makes it challenging to calculate the size of how big that might be. It makes the center very challenging. So let's get back to the game. Yeah, so you see white lost 2 points here. And I don't really know whether it was AlphaGo giving away points because white was winning anyway, or whether it was, I think it did have to do with that code that I'm talking about. So let's get to the code at least. The code is going to happen here on the lower side. When white takes here, if black takes on the second line, there's going to be a code here, which is potentially it's going to capture all of those black stones towards the center. So it's a pretty serious code. And it's going to be a code whether black fights the code now or if black connects, white can connect.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
If black plays here, black cannot capture the white stone. So that would be a collapse for black. So it's going to be a ko. In the game, black did not play that ko. I think the price is too high, so black played on this side. And this is going to be a ko too. But black can connect up in this case. So they left this ko. Obviously, they're not going to settle it. And they're going to fight the ko for a while here. There's going to be a ko on the upper side too. So just to demonstrate how there's a lot of potential kos.
Jeez.
And that would be my explanation. The fact that I pointed out that white lost 2 points here, the fact that white has a ko threat at this point is pretty significant. It's going to make a difference in some of the variations of the ko. So just to show you the ko being played out, and there we have a ko on the upper side. And if white had taken this, I did go a bit into the variation where white answered this. Let's see, instead of playing this move. And the ko is going to continue, of course, but then there's going to be a ko here. And that's going to, and since it's a half-point difference in the game, they're going to fight this. White's not just going to passively connect here. And that's going to be really complicated also. So there was this.
God.
So there was this ko here, and this ko, and there's a potential ko here. A number of kos towards the end of the game, which were really important, which sort of indicates to me that maybe this was sort of done on purpose, you might say. Just to get the extra ko threat. Actually, a number of ko threats. There's a couple of ko threats there that white got. But the way they played it, that ko was resolved. And they're playing an endgame. Amazingly accurate.
Wow.
Again. And they're going to have a ko left at the end.
Because why not? I love watching AlphaGo's Endgame. It's so beautiful.
And basically, yeah, black's losing by half a point and is trying some crazy stuff that's not working. So white connect. This is where black resigned. White's winning by 1.5 points. So it was probably supposed to be half a point, or in Chinese rules that AlphaGo uses something that is pretty much equivalent to the Chinese rules. So
Sure.
it would be white would be winning by 1/4 of a point in the Chinese rules. And it was supposed to be that. I think somewhere in the variations, black gained, white gained a point there. Yeah.
Right.
So white in the Japanese rules or counting rules, it's 1.5 points. And let's see, I think it's something weird like 1.25 points. That's what I put here. I'm not really sure how that works. It's usually 4/3 of a point. I mean 3/4 of a point.
I think,
yeah, sorry with all the fractions.
I think everybody's head just exploded. I know.
Yeah, the unit that the Chinese rules use is different. They use something called stones, which is roughly speaking, it's double the size of a point.
I always
so when I say 1.5 points in Japanese rules, it's usually 3/4 of a point.
I don't know about the rest of it, y'all, but if I can get the count, within 5 and be reasonably accurate, I'm happy. So this 1/4 point stuff is way beyond me. But Michael, what a wonderful commentary and in depth and really revealing so much about the beauty of AlphaGo. It is never ceases to amaze. So really terrific. And I'm so glad there was a question earlier. So just to remind folks, we do have 5 more of these games to take a look at. But again, we're going to be mixing those in with some other things. We'll be planning on a monthly schedule. We'll have that out in the e-journal and our various platforms. So stay tuned on that. Let's see if we can get Stephen back for a second just to give another plug on the US Go Congress. Stephen, welcome back. Good to have you back. Hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah, amazing review. What can you say? Go is difficult. I'm almost AGA 7 done now. I still feel like I know nothing about the game, but always fantastic to Michael's comments.
Absolutely. So remind us about the upcoming US Go Congress, which I believe is open to anybody as long as you can get on a computer anywhere in the world, in the galaxy, I suppose, right?
or the phone. I guess you can also play on phones. I mean, the screens are small, but
good luck with that. But okay.
Yeah, this is basically anywhere with internet connection. At this point, I'm sure that we're all looking forward to something in person. But for the time being, this year's conference is still going to be online. Well, unfortunately, but we also have a lot of nice things planned there. A lot of volunteers have worked really hard to make this happen. So make sure that you join in, and it should be quite the festival there. Registration is free for the vast majority of you. Anyone can sign up, and there are plenty of tournaments to take part in. Just remember that the official website is gocongress.org. You can check that out already. It's open at the moment. As we're talking right now, there are 173 registrations already. We will of course confirm more pro information with you once we know which pros are attending. Well, one of them as of today. We'll be back here on the 23rd of July. That is a Friday with City League commentary. Well, by the way, a little bit of bad news there. I don't think Greater Washington will make it this year to the finals, but it should be still a good match between Vancouver, the first team that is, and New York City. So it should be interesting. A lot of pros on the roster there. So anyway, please do check out the Congress. It's not just going to be about the City League commentary. There will be a full week of interesting content for you from Saturday, 17th of July to the second Sunday, that is the 25th. So make sure that you follow this channel if you haven't, and we'll see you around.
Thank you, Stephen. So again, lots of cool stuff. And again, if you've been to Congress, you know what we're talking about. If you haven't, you can check it out without leaving the comfort or safety of your own home. And again, you don't have to commit to the whole thing. You can drop in and out. You can pick the things that are interesting. So go to it's gocongress.org. Check it out. And also, most important, you have gotten a very substantial helping of Redmond here today. But you can subscribe to his YouTube channel, get those daily lessons, sign up with his Patreon, and you can get all kinds of other goodies. So Michael, it's just really amazing the amount of stuff that is available. If you think about when you started playing Go, and you were studying, I'm sure, off of newspaper records and books, and the fact that you can make something called a Go video and stream live now. It's who knows what our kids are going to be doing, right? But they'll still be playing Go. I think that with some confidence we can say that, right?
Yep. I
Cool.
hope so.
Cool. All right. Big thanks as always to our executive producer, none other than Stephen Hu, and he's going to be hard at work on those Sume Go problems. So get cracking on those, Stephen. And Eva-Dee, our line producer today, kept everything running smooth. Thank you, Eva-Dee. And most especially, thanks to all of you for showing up and spending your Sunday night with us. We appreciate that. And of course, the U.S. Go Association, the American Go Association at usgo.org. I understand, and I know we've done a couple of stories recently, but slowly, carefully, tentatively, Go clubs are beginning to meet again. I know there was just my Go club, the National Go Center here in Washington, just had a meeting. And if you're in the DC area, my Paella Go nights will be starting again fairly soon. So keep an eye open for those. But I think that New York is meeting in person. I think I saw that Portland, which is in a huge heat wave right now. So check, if you're in the US, check your local situation to see what's going on. But I think that people are really itching to get back to play in person. But as Michael and I were discussing at the beginning, I'm with Michael. I don't think we're out of the woods here yet. So I think, even though here in the US, the vaccination rates are very high, we don't want to lose anybody. We want everybody to be really, really careful, so that we want to keep the life and death on the board. Right, Michael?
That's a good place to have it.
Yeah. All right, folks. So we will see you all next time. Thank you, Michael. Wonderful to see you. Wonderful to see you as well, Stephen. We will see you all next time. Thanks so much for watching. Everybody take care.
Cheers.